All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Credentialed Podcast. My name is Ryan. Welcome to our show today. So today I have an awesome guest. His name is Adam Duan. He actually currently plays at Wake Forest University. He's a sophomore at Wake. So Wake has been a national championship winning program. Obviously great tennis, producing great tennis players. Both in the board and in the college level. So he's very willing to spend some time today, just kind of share his experience about playing tennis and obviously playing at Wake, a very high major school, and also just experience playing tennis growing up. And Adam has been a huge supporter of my podcast, and he has been very passionate about sharing his experience. So Adam, thank you so much today. Thank you so much for your time today. So why not you give everybody a quick introduction, of yourself, who you are, where you're from, just kind of your overall experiences so far.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's great to be on the podcast. Thank you very much for inviting me on. So my name is Adam Duan. I'm currently 20 years old. I was born on March 12th, 2003. I'm from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That's where I was born, and my parents are from China. And I've been playing tennis since I was 7 years old. And right now I play at Wake Forest University. Currently, I'm a sophomore student.
Yeah, that's awesome. What are you studying right now?
I'm studying politics. I'm gonna major in politics, and then
Yeah.
maybe after my undergrad, I'll plan to go to the law school.
Yep.
That's one of the possibilities. Yeah. Also, one of the main
Right.
reasons why I'm majoring in politics right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know a lot of people, think about student athletes as people that are really good at sports, but a lot of them are really, really good in academics as well. Kind of like Adam, who wants to go to law school. It's not an easy thing at all. But, let's start talking a little bit about, playing tennis and obviously playing at a college level. It's not an easy thing at all. And you have to balance so many different things growing up. Maybe let's just start talking a little bit about, how you get started into tennis. I mean, tennis has not been that huge of a sport in China, but it looks like you growing up, playing some tennis in the U.S. And how did you start doing that? And how did you have a little bit more fun with it to play tennis?
Mm-hmm. I started when my parents they had a close friend from China that introduced my parents to the sport. And it started off with my parents, my dad and my mom. They would play with their friends. And when I was about 6, 7 years old, I got into it. I would join them, and then I would just play for fun. At the time, yeah, and
Oh
I loved it a
yeah.
lot. That time it was a very fun sport for me.
Yes, sir.
Also to connect with people, and then I decided to get more serious about it when I was around 11, 12. I would train a lot more regularly during that time. Yeah.
Nice. So it looks like you're growing up in the U.S. and then you come and travel back and forth from China when you were young, when you were a kid. Did you play tennis a little bit over there? When you travel back and forth for vacations, and how did you get those trainings? In the
Mhm.
U.S. or in China, and how did that really help you or develop your game?
Yeah, I trained in the US and China. So yeah, when I trained in China, I trained a lot with the provincial team. My parents are from Kunming, Yunnan, so I trained with that team a lot. That's not one of the strongest teams in China, but that was where my parents lived. So that was whenever I went back for vacation, that was one of the main places I would train at. And I've
Yeah.
also trained with another provincial team, the Zhejiang team. They're
Yep.
they were definitely one of the very strong ones. But I only spent about like a week training with them though. Um, yeah, and I also played like many ITF tournaments and also some Nike Cup tournaments in China.
Yep.
Those are like the national tournaments over there. And
Hmm.
I like those a lot though. The especially the Nike tournaments. They were a lot of fun though. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Sounds like, even you travel back to China for vacation, you still play tennis, you still train, kind of get yourself ready for some tennis matches. Well, tell me a little bit more about the differences, right, that you see in terms of playing China and the US. I know there are a lot of tournaments in the US, but there may not be that amount, offered in China. But tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about the differences, yeah, the structure, the player competitiveness, yeah, and so forth.
Uh-huh. Yeah, absolutely. So I think the USTA organization is it's much larger, and obviously right now they have the national campus in Orlando. So I think in the United States they're a lot more invested in tennis. It's a much bigger sport over here, whereas in China it's still considered a pretty small sport, and it shows in the tournaments. Like I definitely feel like the U.S. they're very well organized with their tournaments. Like because it's a large sport, and the tournament directors are also very experienced with their with organizing everything.
Yep.
In China, yeah, the tournaments are a lot of fun too. But I definitely feel like it's a smaller sports over there, and
Yep.
sometimes with the national tournaments, they're not as experienced with organizing. But in terms of the ITF tournaments, it's very professional too. Yeah.
Right. Is there a preference that you would like to play, like either in China or in the US, and maybe you like the
Mhm.
conditions here a little better, or kind of like the maybe you got better food or better preparation over there in China? Any preferences? When you were as a
Mhm.
kid playing those tournaments?
Uh, yeah, in the US, yeah, in the US, I feel like I'm much more because I've been in the US longer. I know it's much
Yep.
easier for me to get around, like find restaurants to eat, and also the language.
Mhm.
English is I'm also much better at English, speak English, so it's easier to communicate with people in the US. But in China, I also have pretty good Chinese. It's not as good as my English, but definitely like the transportation. Sometimes it's difficult in China because there's a lot of people.
Yep.
And also when I'm in China, also my mom, when I went to the ITF tournaments, my mom came with me and she would help
Yep.
me sometimes like understand what they were saying, and then help me communicate with them.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely prefer like the tournaments in the US more, I would say, because in Florida there's just so many tournaments in the US, like for every
Right.
single level,
Right.
like in China it's just there's the national tournaments and ITF, but in the US there's also like men's opens, prize money, and they happen like every weekend. For example, in Florida they have these Battle of Boca tournaments, which
Mhm.
happen like every week, and then you can just go and play play against very high level players,
Right.
like the UTR levels range from like set I don't know 6 7 to the highest being like 13 14 sometimes.
Oh
So I
wow.
definitely feel like it's much easier in the US to play tournaments, and much easier to play tournaments and play against high level players like on a consistent basis.
Right. I agree with it. I mean, you can see from college tennis today, there are so many good players or great players coming to college tennis just to practice or have that experience and compete, right? If you can dominate at the one spot, if you want to go to pro, and that's something that
Mhm.
you really want to, you want to get those wins and get those experience under your belt. Adam, for you, we know that playing college tennis or even reaching that level, it's not something that everybody can achieve. So tell me a
Mhm.
little bit about kind of your junior tennis career, right? And how did tennis even become your specialization, your thing? Because you talk about like you started to pick up a racket 6 7 years old just for fun, but how did
Yeah.
that really? Hey, like I'm really good at this, right? Like and really, come to college with this specialization, with the
Mhm.
skills.
Yeah. So I think for anything, for anyone to be good at anything, the most important thing is to enjoy it, and I feel like I was able to do that with tennis, especially when I was young. Like I really did enjoy it, and yeah, and I was also pretty good at it.
Yep.
Um, yeah, you can say like if you're good at something, you'll probably enjoy it more, and also if you enjoy something, it's easier to become better at it. I feel like they build off of each other.
Right.
And then yeah, I went to an academy when I was about 14. That's when I really took it more seriously. Um, and I was training about 4 hours every day,
Mhm.
including fitness, and that was when I started doing the online program for my high school because because many times whenever I traveled for tournaments, I wouldn't be able to make it back to school after the
Right.
weekend, or and it also gave me much more time to practice when I was doing the online school. So yeah,
Mhm.
I trained at this academy in Florida. It was a small academy. It's called the Bill Adams Academy, and yeah, I trained there for 2 years, and then when I was about 16 years old, that was when I switched to the Saviano Tennis Academy. I don't know if you've heard of him before, but yeah, he's a great coach. He's coached many players on the WTA tour.
Mhm.
He's very good with them. Like Jeannie Bouchard, Sloane
Right.
Stevens. He's coached Amanda Nisimova. Yeah, like many WTA players.
Right.
And I trained on his academy for about 2 years. Um, Basically, yeah, on a full time basis,
Yep.
like every day about 3 to 4 hours. And and even now after I went to college, whenever I go back to Florida, that's the spots like where I train at. Yeah.
Right. Is there a moment or experience, that makes you like super confident that you feel like, hey, I mean, in the juniors, like you said, you play a lot of.
Wait, let me turn on the-
Oh, we're
Oh,
good.
there you go. The light one. Wait, so-
We're good. I was gonna say, like, whenever you play those junior tournaments, whenever you see the draw or whatever, you can see, hey, who is seeded, who's not seeded, for top seeded or not
Mhm.
even seeded. So any of the matches, that you can remember, any of the moments, that really help you to solidify the idea that, I can do this thing, or hey, I am even better than I thought, or I'm just
Mhm.
as good as I'm imagining.
Mhm. Um. So yeah, I always felt like I was yeah, I was improving. I was improving every year. Um. Definitely when I was about 14, 15, I wouldn't consider myself like a top player in the country for my age. But that time I was like I was above average. But yeah, but I wouldn't consider myself like a top player in my age group. And then after I went to the Saviano Academy,
Hmm.
and especially after COVID, I think I was about 17 years old, 16, 17 years old that time. And yeah, that's when I started that's when I feel like I improved the fastest. And yeah, and during that summer, after COVID, I played a few UTR like open tournaments, and I had some really good results there. That was about like the time right before I was getting recruited to colleges, and yeah, I had a really good summer. I won
Right.
yeah, I won a Battle of Boca tournament. I also won it's called the ITA summer regional. I think that's the name of the tournament. It's like ITA. You consider like a college tournament,
Yep.
but anybody can play it. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I had some really good wins there. I beat a few like high 12, um, some 13 UTRs
Yep.
during that time. Yeah, and I had I had a lot of good wins in a row. Uh, yeah, and I think that was probably one of the best periods of my tennis
Yep.
career. And yeah, that part gave me a lot of confidence. That gave me a lot of confidence, and I knew, yeah, I could definitely become uh like a good college player. That was for sure. And but I also had the goal of playing professional after college tennis,
Yep.
and it's still my goal right now.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, going to law school and just doubling down, playing pro, improving tennis at the same time. That's
Yeah.
what an awesome dream. I mean, everybody want to do that, right? We want to have a couple options, and even after tennis, right? For a couple years, and then you still have yourself options in education, on
Mhm.
your hand. And obviously, speaking of education, you're at a really great school in Wake Forest. Not only good academics, but also
Mhm.
great at sports and tennis as well. Tell me a little bit about your recruiting process, and why did you ended up choosing Wake?
Yeah. So yeah, so my recruiting process is about during that summer. I already had a yeah, I already had a decent amount of colleges that were reaching out to me. They were some were sending emails, some were just sending mails, letters to my house.
Mhm.
And yeah, there were some decent schools. There were a lot of decent schools, but yeah, for me, and I also reached out myself to some of the top 10, top 20 schools, expressing interest.
Right.
Yeah, because yeah, I did both. Like schools would reach out to me, but then I would also reach out to schools that I was very excited to go to. And and for me, it was pretty simple. Like which school I wanted. I mean, I just wanted to choose a school that was the best tennis team. And
Mhm.
Wake Forest already had a great history. They won. Yeah, they've already won a few national championships,
Yeah.
and they had a yeah like Borna Gojo, Noah Rubin. They
Mhm.
all came here and became yeah great players. So that was my goal. That was my goal to also do something like that. You know, so
Right.
it was pretty easy for me to decide on Wake Forest because that was the best tennis school for me at that time.
Right. That's awesome. It doesn't sound like, well, it sounds like you're just, very proactive reaching out to the schools, but
Mhm.
also the schools come back to you, with their feedback or, with their offers. Tell me a little bit more about you. You're a sophomore right now, and what is the typical schedule like for you as a student athlete? I know you obviously you train a lot, you take classes, and you got to do so many things in one day and things like that. Tell me a little bit about your schedule.
Mhm. Yeah, our schedule is so we usually have individual practices and also team practices. So usually the team practices are scheduled in the afternoon, and the individual practices are in the morning. So
Hmm.
we meet with our advisor before every semester, and we try to choose classes where we take classes usually in the morning, and then we try to leave the afternoon open for team practices and weights. Um, so usually like 3 times out of the week, 2 or 3 times, I would do an individual like early in the morning, and then I would have classes about from like 9:30 to sometimes it's 9:30 to 1:45. Sometimes it's 9:30 to 12:30. So it depends on the day. And
Yep.
then yeah, the afternoon I would leave that completely open for team practice. That'll usually be about 2.5 to 3 hours of tennis, and then about 3 4 times out of the week we would have weights after that.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and then and then at night about I'd get dinner, and then at night about 7 o'clock. That's when I would just focus on my schoolwork. I'll get my schoolwork done. Yeah, politics can be a lot of reading sometimes, so
Right.
I gotta make sure to stay on top of that. And then yeah, and then around 10 11 o'clock is when I go to bed.
Yep. How did ChatGPT help you do all the reading?
Oh yeah, that's I think that's one of the greatest inventions of all of mankind. Uh,
I hate reading, so I'm like every time I have something too big, I'm just gonna can you
yeah,
summarize this? Bye. And just wait for a couple of minutes to help me summarize. But
yeah.
anyway,
I think the Chat GPT plus the Quillbot combination. I don't know if you heard of Quillbot.
no, cool box.
Uh,
Uh-uh.
yeah, Quillbot. Yeah, it's kind of like a
Okay,
summarizer application. It's similar to ChatGPT.
okay,
Yeah.
right. That's how you save time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
I gotta leave time for practice.
Yeah, there you go. Prioritize things I need to prioritize.
Mhm.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we also know that Wake this year has they always have a big roster of all players on the team. Kind of what was your mentality coming to the team, and a little bit more about your team and the whole little squad or fraternity.
Oh, yeah. So before I came to Wake Forest, I knew that I knew that we would have a very large team. I checked the roster. Um, yeah, we definitely also have a very strong team. Especially the last few years, we're always ranked ranked top 10. Uh, so yeah, so my mentality, I just knew I had to work very hard when I came in. That was for sure.
Hmm.
work very hard, and then I mean, my goal obviously is to play in the lineup,
Yep.
to play in the top six. So my first year when I came in, yeah, that was my goal. And but the first year, the coach decided to redshirt. So me and the other freshmen, we all redshirted that year. And then
Hmm.
this year for my sophomore year, uh, I definitely feel like I made a lot of great improvements. So I played all the tournaments in the fall. Like I traveled with the team. I was basically, yeah, I'd say I was like they usually bring about seven, 8 players for travel.
Yep.
Yeah, but the total team is, I don't know. I think it's like 13 players, something like that.
Yep.
I'm not sure. It's a
That's a
lot.
lot.
Yeah, a big amount. And then yeah, and I think I played pretty well in the fall. I traveled for the tournaments, but then I got injured this year.
Hmm.
It's a lower back injury, so I was not able to play during the season. I did recover near the end of the season about 3 weeks ago,
Hmm.
but yeah, the coach decided it's probably just not worth it to use my eligibility for this season, because it was already near the end.
Right.
So I decided to take the injury redshirt year
Mhm.
for the yeah, and then just focus on the summer and fall tournaments for the rest of the year. You know.
Awesome. So I guess you still have 4 years of eligibility.
Yeah, so I actually still have 4 years of
There
eligibility.
you go. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
think for a lot of people that don't know too much about like NCTOA and eligibility, so for players that are redshirting, that means that year is like free, right? So you can still compete
Mhm.
for that year, but like you can still. Some people they like Bart Butzer spent like 6, 7 years in college. He was a Wake Forest guy, and then he transferred to UVA. So I mean, so even though it's a 4 year program, where you think about 4 year degree, but you can still necessarily you can extend it by talking to the coaches or just kind of planning your own career or your own time. So yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, so I think I really like that flexibility. I mean, there's some people need to develop their first year physically and mentally, so you can take a rest shirt, and then the next year
Mhm.
people start to play, or hey, if there's something happen, kind of your
Yeah.
situation, take an injury rest shirt, and then you still maintain eligibility. So we may see Adam in 2027. You might be still competing in college tennis, right?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll be old guy. I'll be old guy at that point, though.
You probably
Uh,
finish your law school by that by then,
yeah, if I don't play professional, yeah, then I should be
right?
done with law school at that time. Uh,
But yeah, we may see him in a tour too, right? So tell me a little bit more about your transition from college, from high school to college. Is there a specific moment or story that really helped you to grow? As a as a student, right? Just as a guy that entering the college world, and your parents are not around and things like that. How did you grow up? As a as a player, as an adult, just as a person.
so you're asking if there's like one specific moment, or just in
Yeah.
general? How I
If there's a one specific moment, yeah, like experience injuries or being away from families and challenging
Mhm.
academics, things like that. Yep.
Um, I don't think there was one specific moment, but I definitely think it was yeah, yeah, I definitely think it was gradual. Like it happened over a period of time. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think the biggest moment where I feel like I made a transition. I think it was just coming to college. That was a pretty unique experience, because before I'd never been away from home for that long. And yeah, I think that's the main thing. Like being on your own, being in college, being away from the family. No, it's a very different feeling. But
Yep.
also when you come here, you also meet lots of new people, and and you learn to be independent.
Yep.
Yeah, you're not gonna always have somebody to rely on, like your family, your parents. So I think it's good though. At first, it was a little bit difficult, but then I met new people, and then you have to be independent. You have to figure out what you need to do, like when you need to do it,
Mhm.
and yeah, and you become like more responsible. I think I would say, yeah. Yeah, because and it's also you need to be disciplined too. I feel like because with all the schoolwork and the tennis, um, yeah, usually you're going to be very busy, so you need to prioritize your time. You need to know like when to do schoolwork and when to play tennis, and then not and try to be as efficient as possible because you don't have too much time to waste. You
Yeah,
know, when you're being busy as a student athlete, yeah, you have to be very efficient with your time.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can tell because when I was in college, I tutored some student athletes, and they were like, "Hey, this time, this 3 p.m. I got to go there." Their schedule is always packed, always packed.
Hmm.
I think sometimes, like when people make the schedule for student athletes, they don't really consider the amount of work they need to do in the athletic field. Like you train for 2.5 hours. For me, I
Hmm.
probably need to sleep for an hour just to relax from that, right? But like a lot of you guys really don't have that flexibility, don't have that time. You have to go something immediately, or push you in the
Yeah.
study hall, or like blah blah blah. I need to get ready for next day. Definitely, pretty busy schedule, but I think it's a grind. It's a grind for everyone, and just to improve everything, right? I think once you get out of there, either go pro or get into professional, or you have a huge amount of experience, you a lot more than some other regular students or just tennis players in general, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, and yeah, any final thoughts? I think we have covered a lot, in teacher experience. Any advice, for juniors thinking about going pros or going college?
Oh yeah, advice for the juniors. Yeah. Yeah, I think the best advice for junior players is to um I think it's to rely a lot like on yourself. Like I think like the motivation to become a good college player or a professional player or whatever your goal is. Yeah, I think that needs to come from yourself. Like you have to be the one to like I think it takes a lot of hard work and time sacrifice and dedication to be able to get to a high college level or a professional level. And I don't think that like anyone can really like motivate you or teach you as much as yourself.
Yep.
Like I think obviously going to like when you're young, going to a good academy is very important. To learn good fundamentals and technique, and to have fitness trainers and coaches to help you. But then I think after that, a lot of it depends on yourself. Like you have to be willing to make the effort, like mental and physical every day to be able to reach your goal.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that's definitely the most important
Yeah.
thing.
Absolutely, yeah. That's very helpful. I think a lot of the maybe we heard some of the players, especially that in sports, they're a lot of other things other than sports getting taken care of. So like they just focus on the sports, right? But like whenever you
Hmm.
get to college or whenever you're independent, you just have to take care of everything, which is something that a lot of people don't really get accustomed to.
Hmm.
Um, and last question or last piece is like, do you have any advice for the student athletes in general, like people that are in high school, just kind of entering into the college field, and not only from a sports or athletic perspective, but also academics, social, and all the kind of things. What's your advice, for incoming student athletes that might not be in tennis, but just in general, any advice for them?
So you're saying for people that are moving from high school to college,
Yeah.
that are moving to college?
Yep.
Uh-huh. Um, yeah, I think it's to develop a good relationship like with the coaches. I think
Yep.
the thing that the coaches look for the most, I've heard this from like my coach and also other coaches.
Hmm.
Uh, like they want to see that you have that you want to improve yourself. Like if you're for example, if you're a very talented player but you're not very hardworking,
Right.
sometimes they don't. They're not going to invest. I guess you could say invest as much in
Yep.
you. Whereas like if you're a player like very hardworking,
Hmm.
if you're not as talented, like they want to help you grow and they want to help see you get better.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that they want to see you prioritize the team and also prioritize tennis. You know,
Hmm.
and not be someone that that comes and doesn't
Yep.
show to the coaches that you want to work hard.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think and then also like communicating with the coaches,
Mhm.
telling them what you want to work on, communicating, telling them if there's something you feel like you need to improve, um, especially in the individual training sessions that I was talking about. We'll have those like that. That's a great time to communicate with the coaches and 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 use the opportunity to connect with them. You know, because yeah, the relationship with the coach is very important when you come in. I
Yeah.
think it's probably the most important thing in determining um, what you're gonna get out of college tennis.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, the top six players are the players who play that will be determined by the coaches, right? So we
Mhm.
can have a good relationship, and then, I really don't see there's like a huge amount of skill difference. You know what I'm saying? Like with the amount of players who
Yeah.
can play here, they're already very good. So who can play?
Mhm.
It really might be depending on the relationship and the rapport that you develop with your other teammates as well, right? People that are not playing, they're supporting you, from the bench, but it's the coach's call, to determine who's playing, who's not playing. Yeah. So, we know that, you have a very busy schedule, and thank you. We just want to thank you so much for, coming to our podcast today. And,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
April, right? And then our NCTOA will be in May, and hopefully the wake team will advance and get to Orlando, which is going to be the final. Going to be the Elite Eight performances going to Final Four National Championship. So, Adam, thank you so much for your time today. I
Mhm.
really appreciate you for
Okay.
joining us, for sharing. Really great to have you, man.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ryan. Yeah, it was great talking to you too. Yeah, it was great being on your podcast. Yeah, and I wish you all the luck for your Instagram and your podcast. Yeah, and
Awesome.
it was great talking with you. Yep, really appreciate it too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adam. We hope you have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, have a good day. Bye bye.
You too. I'm going to.
To change my point of view, I feel so lonely, I'm waiting for you, but nothing ever happens, and I wonder.
我们知道在世界上呢有很多喜欢体育的朋友们，你或许呢在某一个球队某一个集团工作哈，或者是呢你是某一个球队的热衷粉丝哈，我们都非常期待你来跟我们一起去分享你的故事哈。如果你有你的故事，如果你想来在我们这个平台去分享哈，大家呢都可以来联系我哈。那么我们的 Instagram 账号是 the_credentialed_podcast。那么大家也可以通过邮箱的方式来联系我哈。那么 thecredentialed.basketball@gmail.com。那么也是非常感谢大家的支持啊！我们希望通过这样的方式跟大家取得联系，希望你能够享受我们这样的一个播客。谢谢大家。